Hello, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association. Thanks for joining me for this IPA talk. And today I'm grateful to have with me Morgan Lovelace, who is a principal consultant in the Educator Effectiveness Department at the Illinois State Board of Education. Morgan, thanks for joining me and being here to talk a little bit about something new that the State Board's got going on with PD Plus.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jason. I'm really excited to be here and be able to introduce PD Plus to the field and let everyone learn more about it.
That's great. So, Morgan, I always be remiss when I have guests, especially those that maybe haven't joined me before, to just want to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been with the state board now for around over 5 years, actually. Every time I say that, I'm like, oh, wow, it's a lot longer than what I thought. Time flies.
Yeah.
So I've been with the state board for over 5 years now. I've been specifically in educator effectiveness for 3 years. Prior to that, I did work in a school district and also have some experience at the community college level as well. So always have been in education, always have a big passion for education. So it's been really nice landing in educator effectiveness and just being able to kind of keep that passion going. So
Yeah, well, appreciate your work there. We do a lot there with your department on a variety of things, particularly where the development of educators, particularly school leaders, for us is concerned. So you're here today to talk to us about PD Plus, and actually this is going to be a bit of a show and tell episode. So a lot of times people tell me like, hey, I just put it on in the car and listen on the way to work, but you've got some things that you want to walk us through to introduce PD Plus and share with us some of the elements, what's going on with it now, and what we can expect with it in the future. So if you'd like to go ahead and share your screen, that would be great.
yes, I would be happy to. So what I'll do when I share my screen is just kind of a little bit of a high overview of what PD Plus looks like. We'll do one side, which will be specific to professional development providers, and then the other side will be specific to educators. My overview today will be really high level, but we do have a website specific to PD Plus, and it's www.isbe.net/PD Plus, all spelled out. And you can go on our website and watch specific how-to tutorials for how to do everything as a provider or as an educator within your personal PD Plus account. So feel free to check those out to kind of get some more details. So
Great.
I'll go ahead and start by showing the provider side this morning. And taking a look at it, this is the provider landing page, or the provider homepage is what we refer to it as. This will be the page you're brought to as a professional development provider as soon as you log in. So for the demonstration purposes this morning, I'm just using one of our regional offices of education. This is accessed in a couple different ways for professional development providers, which I do want to spend a little time talking about. So if you are a school district or a regional office of education, you will automatically get access to PD Plus via your current Ellis for Administrators access. So there isn't any new system that you need to sign up for. That access will automatically be granted through Ellis for Administrators. And then if you're one of our professional development providers who doesn't currently use Ellis, you can sign up for PD Plus individually as an application via our IWAS system. So just a little bit of information regarding how to access PD Plus if you're a provider currently. Up here on the left, you'll also see a few different menu of options here. So this is kind of like your hub for everything that's currently in the system right now. And so you have your calendar up here, your create activity wizard. So this is where you would go in to create any new professional development activities you would like to input into PD Plus. And then the search activities page brings you to a page of filters where you can search through any activities that you've put into PD Plus. So maybe you're a professional development provider who offers hundreds of activities a year. You can go into here and kind of go back and try to find and look at any activities that way. Another feature you have directly from the homepage is an upcoming activities tab. So you can go here and see any upcoming activities that you have that you've entered into PD Plus. So you'll notice here that one of my activities is highlighted in red, and that indicates that my activity hasn't been published out there for anybody to sign up for yet. So maybe you started creating an activity from the wizard up here at the top, but you needed to stop and go to something else and come back later. You can save it as a draft, similar as you would an email or a Word document. And so if that's the case, it'll highlight it in red just to kind of indicate like, hey, don't forget you kind of have this lingering in the system that you need to finish up.
Great.
And then also as the provider, kind of just what I want to touch on quickly is the calendar. So the calendar is kind of like the hub of all of the professional development activities. So this is where you can come to do most of the features of the system implemented so far. So you can check attendance rosters, you can generate links to activities, and then this is also where you'll come to specifically mark an activity as completed. So when you're ready to give educators who have signed up credit for the activity, you'll come to the calendar and click on the applicable activity in order to do that. So a couple other features as a provider, there's a notification system. So you'll see over here, I have a couple of unread notifications. This is similar to like an email or text message. As you read them, they will mark themselves as unread, but you'll get notifications for things such as when an educator signs up for your activity, things like that. And then we also have a help button down here. I mentioned a little bit earlier in our talk that we have how-to tutorials. Those are on our website as well as also in every single user's account as well. So that's just a little bit of an overview of the provider side. So I think I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the educator side now. And this is one of our test educator accounts that we're using this morning. So we're looking at Timmy Cool Teacher here. And this is his login screen for PD Plus for him. So in terms of accessing PD Plus as an educator, you automatically get access to PD Plus via your current Ellis for Educators account. So if you're going into your personal Ellis account, maybe to look at something on your license, etc., maybe you're applying for something, that is where you will go to click to access PD Plus. So there'll be a new button in the upper left-hand corner that says PD Plus. If you click on it, this is the page you're going to be brought to. So it's going to give you a little bit of a breakdown of your license, when you're up for renewal, the status of your license, and then your progress towards completing your professional development for your renewal cycle. If you were to have multiple licenses that require professional development in order to renew, you would find that information here as well. So for example, you can see there's a Pell here. We may have like a career and technical educator license listed here as well. So any licenses that you have that require professional development to renew will be listed here on the homepage.
So Morgan, just interject here.
Yeah.
I guess that gets me to thinking about the future of Ellis, right? Particularly in this case, the educator side of Ellis, because Ellis has kind of got two parts, right? You've got the educator side and then the public facing side of that that people can search. But with the educator side, would we see Ellis basically get absorbed or collapsed into what you're doing here with PD Plus? And might this be the place where people would eventually see that Ellis related information?
That's a great question. So Ellis will always remain. The only part of Ellis that will eventually be phased out will be the professional development page. So everything else in Ellis will remain there, all of the license information, because that's also where all of our applications go, things like that.
Right.
So it will always stay there, but eventually the professional development page will be removed, and instead the professional development page will be here in PD Plus instead.
Okay. Would individuals likely be able to toggle between the two if they're logged into Ellis? And do you anticipate being able to get between one and the other?
Yep, so they can do that now. So basically, since this is our test environment, you can't see it, but normally there's a button up here on the menu that says like return to Ellis when an educator's in their account. And so you can easily toggle back and forth between PD Plus and Ellis when you're in both systems, and they both communicate. So currently the Ellis professional development page is still there. And we also have the new professional development page, which I'll show you in just a second here. And those pages currently communicate. So if something's entered into Ellis currently as an activity, PD Plus will pick it up and vice versa.
Great.
So just a little bit about the overview on the educator end. This is the search activity page. This is where you can go and search and register for professional development activities that have been entered into this system in PD Plus. So there's several filters on this page. You can search by keyword, topic, the cost, where it's at, how many hours are awarded, etc. And then after you search for the activity, that's where you will go to sign up as well. So once you generate your results, you can go through and click on a specific activity and sign up via this page. Every educator has their own personal activity calendar. So this will house any activities that an educator has signed up for. So you can see here, I put an example activity in the system this morning. And if I click on it, it kind of just gives me a little bit of an overview. So where it's at, who's hosting it, how many hours I'm going to get, things like that. And so every educator has their own personal calendar, and only activities that you have signed up for will be shown on this calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And then the PD page here. So this was what I was just talking about a second ago. So this is the page that will eventually replace the Ellis professional development page. But right now, both pages still exist, but the pages are communicating. So this will be the new PD page. So basically, you'll still have the ability to manually enter professional development at this time, as you always have. Nothing will be new there. We actually have a new menu that kind of breaks down the different types of professional development. So if it's just a basic activity, if coursework was completed towards professional development, or if a certain kind of certification or license fulfills the 120 for professional development. So we kind of have just cleaned up that manual entry a little bit, tried to make it a little more detailed, a little more user-friendly and helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, then any activities completed through the system, those will automatically generate on this page as well. So eventually this page will replace the LSPD page, but that won't be until we integrate the Illinois Administrator Academy Management System, or IMS, into PD+. So IMS is not currently in PD+ yet, so we don't want to get rid of that LS professional development page too early, because all of our administrators, of course, need to track not only their professional development, but also their administrator academies. And that information is still just showing on the LS side. So that's why both of those pages are still up and going right now, just so that way we aren't removing any information that we still need.
Mm-hmm. But more convenient one of these days, right? When both of those two things merge together, correct?
Yes, yes. So it'll be really convenient to have all professional development and administrator academy information housed into one system, basically. Mm-hmm. It'll be really nice. And then educators also have their own help button down here at the bottom with those how-to tutorials, same thing that's on our website, but you can also access it. And these videos all live on YouTube. So you could open the video up in a new tab and kind of be doing the work in PD+, while you're watching the video. So it's kind of a step-by-step process that you can do with that.
Great.
All right, so that's a little bit of an overview. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here. And so, I'll just, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask Morgan, what was the rationale for doing the work here and creating PD Plus from the state board's perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we, I always not joke, but make statements like, in my brain now, I'm always like pre-COVID, post-COVID, because this year seemed to run together at this point. But back in 2017 is when we kind of started having discussions about professional development. So something that is our agency's responsibility is that we want to ensure that all educators in the state, one, have equitable access to professional development, and two, are taking professional development that really pertains to their job, and that is going to be meaningful for them and help really benefit them in the classroom. And so we didn't just decide one day, like, oh, I think we're going to, put together a professional development tracking system. So because we need to, we track professional development in terms of, making sure it's aligning to the standards and the professional development purposes, we had sent out a survey back in 2017, just asking all of the educators in Illinois that wanted to fill out the survey, basically, where do you take your professional development? Do you pay for your professional development? Do you feel like your professional development benefits you in your everyday job? Things like that. And we had a really good response rate on this survey, and most educators responding saying that they did take their professional development through their school district because it's the most convenient, it's right there, it's usually always free if they do it that way. But sometimes they stated that the professional development may not always pertain to their everyday job. Or what they are doing in the classroom, because obviously, as you know, we have so many different content areas in every school.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of just ask questions like, would it be nice for you to have a new streamlined place to track all your professional development? Would you like the ability to maybe see other professional development options that are out there in the state? Things like that. And the overwhelming majority said, like, yes, that would be great. We would love to have something like that. And so that kind of spiraled into us doing just some different stakeholder meetings, mainly with professional development providers. We got some really great feedback from some of our providers about systems they already have and how their systems work, and what they think would, need to be in a system in order to offer something like that. And so that kind of has carried us now 5 years later into, developing PD Plus. We're currently, what you see and what I just showed you was phase 1, but we're in a phase system approach for creation. So phase 1 is what's out there right now and was released on August 29th. Phase 2 is what we're currently working on, which is strictly just the integration of IMSS. So that's the only thing we're focused on in phase 2. And then once phase 2 is completed, we'll be more focusing on enhancing our current features that you currently see in phase 1, continuing to make it more user-friendly, adding, more enhanced features, such as, being able to add things to your personal calendar, maybe opting into text reminders, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So as the phases progress, the features in the system will progress as well.
So I think it's important, and because you talked about with the providers, the various systems and things, Morgan, I think it's important to discuss just some of the nuances of where PD Plus could interact, with the various providers out there, which of course IPA is one of those, particularly for building level leaders. So and what I appreciate about what you're trying to accomplish here at the state board is trying to provide capacity where capacity is needed, where providers could leverage the PD Plus systems to support registration and some of those kinds of things. Where IPA, we've got systems that pretty well handle that stuff. We've really grown and improved with that over the last decade or so, in particular as the technology has gotten better. So while we will for sure want to make sure, like IPA activities, for example, are there and available in the PD Plus system in the calendar, and people will have access to it, the registrations for those events and things will actually still happen with us, right? Versus maybe other providers that may need to do that with through the PD Plus system. But you mentioned the term streamline, professional learning, having, a good place where all of that stuff sits. That's something that we're very excited about, and some of the things that you're talking about doing down the road, where in a lot of ways you're going to allow for the educators to be able to allow for the technology to automate some processes for them so that they won't have to worry about it later, right? To where, for example, if someone were to take an event with IPA, even let's say our conference, where we could then upload participants in a batch, and then those participants won't have to go in and manually put in their professional development, right? So anybody that's an approved provider, we could just kind of handle some of that stuff for them, and knowing, and there are no promises yet as we work out those details and deal with the technology side of it. But I'm really excited about the conversations and the things that you're talking about there at the state board to help, make those things more user friendly for educators, maybe save them a little bit of time.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And that was when I'm glad you mentioned the batch upload and streamlining. And that's our big goal, is to just automate that professional development process for educators. So right now it's a very paper heavy process too.
Mm-hmm.
Educators are having to track forms that they got for a professional development activity that they took 5 years ago, just in case they get audited. And so one big plus.
I used to have a file when I was a principal. This is a long time ago, but we had it then. I used to have a file right next door next to my desk and my chair that I just slide stuff into.
Yes, because you just never know when you're going to need that piece of
Right.
paper. And, we're in 2022 and we, really want to advance our technology. So one big perk to PD Plus is that that professional development being automated and, maybe added in by the provider, no matter how that may look right now,
Mhm.
automates the PD process for the educator and for the provider. And the educator then doesn't have to keep copies of their forms because it lives in PD Plus. So unless they want to keep a copy, they're more than welcome to, but it really streamlines that process, puts the forms within the system. So then it's not the responsibility of the educator to keep track of a form from an activity they took 5 years ago.
Right. Well, so it seems to me the long-term vision is, as I see it, correct me if I'm wrong here, is once somebody is registered for an event, participates, as part of that, where it comes to the management and tracking of that professional learning experience, at some point in time down the road, they may not have to touch anything with regards to making sure that it's in the system and recorded for them. Obviously, we hope that they would do some things with the learning that they receive, but that's what we want their focus to be, rather than taking care of the compliance for, licensure purposes.
Exactly. No, that's a perfect explanation. The only thing that the educator would have to do is fill out their evaluation survey like they always do.
Right.
But that would be within the system form. And as soon as they fill it
Mhm.
out, they're automatically going to get the credit. There's no going in, oh man, I'm up for renewal this year. I haven't entered any activities for
Got
the
to pull out
past
the
5 years.
file.
So I got
Got
to
to
pull
get the
out my
file.
file and,
Mhm.
try to plug all this information in for, 25 different activities that I've done for the past 5 years. So yeah, it would save a lot of time
Yeah.
and just streamline that process so much.
Yeah, we used to fill out those evaluations using like the carbon paper, right? Where it would copy through. So you get a copy, we get a copy,
Yes,
all of that
yes.
stuff. So we've evolved a little bit where we're using Google now instead of some of that, but still have a ways to go. So Morgan, with regards to kind of, you mentioned a few different phases. I mean, best case scenario here from your perspective there at the agency, what are you hoping, like timeline wise or years wise, to try to have some of this stuff fully implemented? Obviously, full disclosure that tech sometimes works on its own timeline, so it could be faster or shorter or longer depending on how it's going.
Yes. So, best case scenario for full completion is the end of 2025. So we're still
Okay.
looking at approximately 3 years or so. So kind of like a year or so, give or take, on each phase. We probably spend, of course, like the most of our time on phase one, because that was, going to be the first big push to get everything out there. It was the basics of the system, and of course, you want all of your basics of your system functioning, perfectly and as correctly as you can, because as you continue to add features, you want those basic functions going. So 2025 end of the year is best case scenario, but like you said, sometimes technology makes its own decisions. But that's what we're looking at right now.
You bet. That's great. So one last time here, Morgan, before we wrap up, what's the website again where people can go learn more? And we'll make sure it's in the show notes too,
Yes,
for people to
perfect. So
get to.
they can go to www.isbe.net/PD plus, all spelled out.
Great. Thanks, Morgan. Appreciate you being with me talking about this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's really great to have the opportunity to do this. And we will also be at IPA's conference coming up
Yes. Looking
on
forward to that.
October 17th. So we're looking forward to that.
That's awesome. Thanks, Morgan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association, with Morgan Lovelace, Principal Consultant in the Educator Effectiveness Department there at the Illinois State Board of Education, talking to us about PD+. If there's anything that IPA can do for you, don't hesitate to give us a call anytime or check us out on the web at www.ilprincipals.org. Take care.